The Royals beat the Twins 5-4. It's a one-run ball game in the opener at Kauffman Stadium. We're going to break this one down on today's Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, your team every day.
And welcome to another edition of our Locked On Twins postcast. It's Tuesday, September 20th. I'm the host of Locked On Twins, Nash Walker. You're with writer and reporter at Access Twins, Mr. Brandon Warren. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Brandon, welcome back. We're back for a series opener at the K. I think both of us would have the K in our top 5 for stadiums we've been to. Twins lose 5-4. And interesting happening perhaps in this game. We didn't get confirmation, but it looked like Rocco Baldelli pulled Gilberto Celestino, not for an injury, but for something else. What did you think of that, Brandon?
It's really at this point, I think, mounted to the point where something had to happen, and he's a pretty easy guy to choose based on some of the mental mistakes he's made here in the last, I'd say, three to 4 weeks. And this was just the right time to do it, or maybe before would have been, but this was just kind of the icing on the proverbial cake. And it's just the season has reached a tipping point. It reached a tipping point, quite frankly, quite a while ago. And I think it's just time for in this case, Rocco to show he can't tolerate this anymore. He can't allow this to happen.
Yeah, Celestino, ball 4 was not called. Instead, he grounded out, and he was very frustrated by that. We don't know what happened after. Something might have happened after with him, but pulled from this game. This kind of translates into a discussion we haven't had, Brandon, about Rocco Baldelli's status for 2023. And I haven't thought about it much this year because, to me, I just don't see a scenario where he's not back in 2023. Do you think there's any chance Rocco Baldelli is not managing this team on opening day next year?
Well, the one thing I heard on the radio, by the way, is that Celestino walked very slowly back to the dugout, and it was really getting on the nerves of the Royals, and the Twins didn't like it either. Meanwhile, as far as Rocco coming back, I'd say it's almost certain, outside of some weird occurrence like he gets a job somewhere else or something. Maybe he goes and manages LSU like Wes Johnson. I'm kidding. Yeah, there's a take for you. I think that if they start slow next year, the seat under Rocco and Falvey and Levine would start to get a little hot. Not because they've done a poor job, but just the results haven't matched the process. And at some point after 3 seasons, you got to kind of take stock of what you have in front of you and reevaluate. And, is the pitching pipeline that we've heard so much about as close as you or I might think? I don't think it's too far off, but at the same time, how much longer do you want to go into the future? You've got a big Buxton contract. You're probably going to have a big offseason this year of contracts handed out relative to what they've done to this point. I don't do leash. I don't call it a leash, but I feel like the amount of slack that they have at this point is probably not what it was a few months ago.
It's interesting how this has turned the last couple of years. With this front office, they get that extension after 2019. I think a lot of us felt rightly so after the job that was done in 2019. 2020 is a division-winning season, albeit a shortened season, and then now back-to-back what will be non-playoff seasons for this front office. I mean, you see some groups go through. The Mariners haven't made the playoffs since, 2001? I think it's 2001, but I think there's a higher expectation here. There's a high expectation. I'm not saying Mariners fans don't have a high expectation for their club to make the playoffs, but after 2019 and 2020, I think the expectation level is high. They set the bar high. They made the playoffs in 2017, their first year, and that bar is high. And for them, it's been a tough bar to clear the last couple of years.
I want to say that Mariners team won 116 games and didn't do anything in the playoffs, and then spent the next 20 plus years looking to get back there. And so it can be easy to fall into a trap of the Twins haven't made noise in the playoffs for basically as long as you've been alive, maybe a little less, but you do have to put that into the context of a lot of teams don't make the playoffs in that time frame. But you get wrapped up in that playoff futility and realize that at least you made the playoffs, and that's more than a lot of teams can say. I, though, think fairly or unfairly at this point, this front office has graded on a bit of a curve as they've come in and overhauled everything. We talked about how much, how old-fashioned Ron Gardenhire was, and I think in some senses Paul Molitor was a decent transition, but they've basically gone the way of analytics. And, this is the future that I wanted when I was a 20-something baseball writer back in the day. Now it's coming to a head. Is that a viable, feasible way to run a baseball team in 2022? Well, we'll find out in 2023. I think it's going to be, a much tighter ship run around there, and they're going to have a lot more accountability as it comes down to, have they put this team in a better spot than they found it? And I think they have, but have they progressed it far enough in 7 years, which that's a question that deserves to be asked.
Is there a scenario, Brandon, this offseason where without Carlos Correa, no Carlos Correa signing, where we can feel like good about 2023? Because to me, that's just such a priority to fill that hole. And I'm not saying it has to be Correa, but let's say they don't fill shortstop with a big time batter, big time player. Is there any route here where we're feeling confident, Twins fans are feeling confident about 2023, even without Correa or Bogarts or Turner or somebody to fill in at short?
I feel like you'd probably have to, land Carlos Rodon in that case. And really, I keep kind of banging the drum, but with the way their payroll is structured, adding another superstar is a no-brainer. And, there's questions of if Carlos Rodon can stay healthy, but he's been healthy for a while now. He's still going to be fairly young as far as a free agent pitcher goes. So for me, it comes down to adding a star somewhere. Will either of those shortstops suffice? Sure. Do I feel like they have the same galvanizing presence in a clubhouse? I don't know. Does that matter? I don't know. I mean, Xander Bogaerts has won a ring. Carlos Correa has won a ring. Trey Turner's won a ring. So, I mean, what's the intangible value for each of these guys, and how much does it actually matter? I don't know. But the Twins have to land a big-time talent who makes this team, which is otherwise relatively young, gives them a cornerstone to lean on. To me, Correa is kind of that guy. But if they can get Rodon instead, I'm not going to be too upset.
The poll Brandon put out, I think you put it out today. It was an interesting question, interesting talking point. If hypothetically the Twins were to sign Xander Bogaerts and Noah Syndergaard or Nathan Eovaldi, someone of that stature on the starting pitching market, would you rather have that or them just to sign Correa for essentially would have been the price for those other two? And I was thinking about it, and I think my initial reaction is Correa, just because of the defense, and I feel putting him up the middle and just having a cemented, great shortstop is going to benefit everybody around him. And it has this year. What's your take on that, Brandon, if you had to go one way or the other?
Well, the last time I checked the results was a couple hours ago, and the second option, which was Bogaerts and a pitcher, was winning, but it wasn't by a huge fashion. Now, yesterday's poll flipped pretty quickly, so there's probably still some time for it to flip here in the next 10, 12 hours. But for me, the problem is, does Nathan Eovaldi do anything for you that you can't reasonably hope Joe Ryan does, or Sonny Gray, or Tyler Mahle? And the reason I say that is because if you've got a rotation full of guys who peak as number 2 starters, is there any novelty factor to signing another one that's a guy that's going to keep a Louis Varland either in St. Paul or in a different role rather than a starter? So what you really need is to go get a Rodon, or else go back to this reclamation project thing, but spend less money on a Sean Manaea or something like that. So to that end, I mean, then you want Correa, right? But if Bogarts, who's a couple years older but is having a very, very good season, is available and you can get him, and I mean, people say, what about a reliever? Twins aren't going to spend that kind of money on a reliever in free agency. They just aren't going to do it. What's the alternative then if you were to get Bogarts and, a decent fourth outfielder who can play center to back up Buxton? I don't really know that makes sense either. So to me, it's a pretty narrow path. And right now I'm leaning Correa, but if it's Bogarts and Syndergaard, I still think Syndergaard's got a chance to start popping the mid again a year further removed from Tommy John. And so if it's Syndergaard, I'm in for Bogarts and Syndergaard. If it's Valdi, Manaya, someone of that, then I'm right back to Correa. But either way, I'm not going to be dissatisfied.
Twins are going to need to sign some elite ball players this winter. That's the bottom line.
Congratulations. You are the owner of a brand new certified what do they call it? Certified pre-owned Elvis Andrus.
Oh, man.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That's my point. That's kind of my point when I was asking that is like, if you have Andrus at short and you even sign Rodon, does that really change the perception of the team next year? And to me, you need a really good shortstop and you need to sign a top of the rotation pitcher.
Well, Andrus has been pretty good for the White Sox. Was it enough for you to be more excited about him than you were Andrelton Simmons at the time? No. Simmons came off opting out of the end of the 2020 season. He was still a good defender. You knew the bat was kind of a noodle, but it was going to be respectable batting average. And then he just cratered, and then he's taken it to a whole nother level this year. It would not be very exciting. But again, with Rodon, I guess I would understand it, especially if you got good reports that Royce Lewis is progressing. But I don't know. I mean, I'd be a lot more lukewarm on that than excited.
A lot more conversations ahead. Twins did lose tonight to the Royals 5-4 at Kauffman.
Small detail.
Brandon, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for watching. As always,